I'm Justin Davis, and this is Runcam's RC. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Justin Davis of Runcam's RC. Today we're going to do a top 5 series, and these are the best of the best micro brushless for 2019, going into probably Q2 of 2019. There's going to be a lot of micro brushless releases all during the year, and we're going to update those on the channel, so be sure to subscribe. As the video gets older, we will continue to add new quads to the channel and more like singular type reviews, but please do make a comment down below because we're giving away an Emax Tinyhawk by the date you see here on the screen, and we're also giving away the 6S Mephisto HGLRC drone. It's a super fast 6S ripper. So start out with something you see here on the bench and then move your way up to something like 4S 5-inch quad, and then move your way up to something like 6 and 7-inch. And we're all about that type of evolution on the channel because we fly just about everything from brushed motors to micro brushless like this. So we're going to show you some quads here on the bench today that range from a 1S little ripper all the way up to a 4S ripper, 3S, 2S, and 1 and 2S on the Mobula 7. But each quad you see here is absolutely recommended by me, and if you get any of these that are sitting here in front of you, I will stand behind that quad. If you want to ask me questions about it after you get it, please do, because I like to share back with the FPV community, especially regarding these quads. I talk to these companies all the time, and I've also helped them test some prototypes behind the scenes. So without further ado, let me show you some flying of each one of these. Let's talk about the flight characteristics of it, and I'll help you make your decision for buying your first FPV race drone, starting out on 1S if you want to, moving your way all the way up to a 4S little mini ripper, and I'll help you out with your evolution in the hobby and make it easier for you. So let's go ahead and get started with number 5 out of 5. Windy. Woo. $2S outdoors. Come on back. Flying in Acro. Flying pretty good with all this wind even. That's the punch that I'm looking for. Punch out. Uh-oh. Cut some grass. Feels pretty good. Flips really nice. Forwards and backwards. Let's check out the hover. Getting pushed around by a little bit of wind. Looking good though. Punch out way up there. Way up there. Come back in Acro. Come on back. Can I figure it out? Yeah, nice. That was a little far out there. All right, let's do some FPV. Here we go, guys. All right, now we get to do the flight test. I couldn't wait to get out here to fly this. The GT7 looks so cool right out of the box. It felt really solid in my hand. It is quite a bit bigger than the Mobula 7, and it feels a lot more beefy. It runs a lot bigger battery. So I was interested to see how this was going to translate to the flight characteristic. Now, it does feel heavier right away than the Mobula 7. It doesn't have the same power weight ratio. So this one drives more like a truck versus like something like a sports car. The Mobula 7 is super fast and snappy, but this one is still very predictable. It tracks really straight. I'm even able to get underneath those picnic tables, which is kind of amazing. Blasting around the playground, still having just as much fun with this particular quad as I did the Mobula 7. So this one flies different though. So going up really high above the playground. And a nice day to fly the playground because it just rained a whole lot, so I have it all to myself here. Really interesting place to fly and test out a video transmitter because there's tons of metal structures around in that playground, little fences everywhere, and the more you get around large metal objects, the more your transmission breaks up. So that's why you're seeing some break up here. And going in between things, and really places where I thought I was going to fail safe, this AC900 held up, which was really impressive. Going behind like solid objects usually makes me just totally lose signal and fail safe, and it didn't happen with this one. I've flown with the AC800 a while back, I believe a couple years ago, and one of the first little micro receivers that I've seen that would fit on a micro brushless, and that one didn't make it very far. About a football field was about all I could get. But this one's getting me out there about 2 football fields, which is really good. So I can go way up high and not worry too much about fail-safing. The only thing that you have to worry about with these type of quads is the wind, your weather conditions. Outdoors it's going to get pushed around a lot if it is a little bit windy. We had a front moving in here. You can see it just beyond those trees right there. Started to push a little bit of wind in my direction, and as the wind increased, it became harder to fly this guy. So on your very calm days, man, look at that. There goes a durability test for the prop guards. Didn't get a crack in it from hitting a metal pole, and another hit right there, and a really big crash. So I wanted to show you guys a really nice crash, because I don't always pull out of my maneuvers. Some of the guys won't show you the crashes, but this is a review, so it's good for you to see a crash and then see that it came back in the studio in one piece. It's not broken to pieces. Alright, now that you guys have seen the Tiny GT7 fly, I also have to let you know that there's another Tiny GT8 out there, just a little bit bigger. This is a 75mm frame, and the GT8 is actually an 85mm frame. So if you want something just a little bit bigger, you can do that for outdoors. And remember, more weight handles more wind usually. So the bigger they are, the more wind you can fly them in. The smaller they are, the lighter they are, the less wind they can handle. So the GT7 can handle quite a bit of wind, and one of the reasons this is my number 5 pick in this order of quads is because of mainly the durability for this quad. This has a really durable frame on it. One of the most durable frames that we're going to show today in this video. I took this one out for multiple flight tests, and if you watch my channel, you know that I am super rough on stuff, and I usually give it a good thrashing. It does have sort of a horizontal mounted battery, just like this, that goes this way instead of front to back, but that's because I modded it with a little iFlight strap, which I do recommend that you do. This little quad does have super popular 0803 motors, and these are 9,000 kV motors. The higher you go up in the kV, the faster revolutions you get per kilovolt. So these are somewhere mid-range for a micro brushless. You also have a decent camera on here. It is non-tiltable. It has a little tiny bit of tilt. You can push it back just a little bit further, but the biggest deal with this camera is this one is one that's sort of an AIO style camera incorporated into that VTX in the back right here. You can see that board there. There's 2 separate boards for the VTX, and the flight controller and ESCs are down bottom. And the little copper wire coming up in the back, that is for your video signal. Your 5.8 comes out of there. But this camera has a wide field of view, so there really is no need to have a whole lot of camera angle. If this was tilted way up like this canopy shows, you would be flying super fast. So the more camera tilt you have, the faster you're going to fly. So that means more angle you're going to have on your quad rotors. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Less camera tilt when you're starting out. Work your way up to more camera tilt as you get better at flying. If you're doing an Acro Trainer type of setup, start out with a little less and work your way up, just much easier. Now we also have some pretty small little props. You do get 3 sets of props in the box with this, and I love the boxes that LDARC includes. These are super awesome cases, really sturdy. You can take the insert out and you can put like all of your micro brushless in this box. All of your tiny whoops and everything could fit in here for your indoor winter flying. And this one's also versatile indoor or outdoor. So a really nice value because they give you plenty of props, they give you a battery. Some of these guys don't give you batteries with the quad, so that's what makes the LDARC a better value than a lot of brands out there. This is a 2S 380 milliamp battery, and it did have sort of a little slot down here, and I took a pair of snips and cut the slot off because I can fly my other batteries now. You'll notice that it has this style connector on it. You can charge this with the lead that came in the box. So you plug this in like this, and you can charge it on your standalone charger. And I'll recommend some LiPo chargers down below for you guys first getting into this. You'll also get some extra hardware with it, which I like a lot. I think this is a great value because we have our hardware for our props, and those were $15.35. If you're looking for the number of those, you can find that same prop number probably on Amazon from LDARC or King Kong. Now these are M2 screws, and you get 12 of these in there. These are 4mm, and these go in the bottom of the motors. Make sure you don't take off the bolts from your props and put them through your motor, so it will actually damage your motor because it will go up too high and then make contact with the turning point of your motor, and that will absolutely damage your motor. Be careful of that if you're just getting into FPV racing or playing around trying to learn acro and freestyle flying. But the GT7 is highly recommended from me because it has a lot of versatility, it flies really well, and it's locked in from the factory. It flew great. Even with these little prop guards, they just bounce off stuff, and it's really, really fun to fly. Very predictable. What I call the FPV truck of sorts, because it is super heavy duty, very tough, and perfect for beginners. And also you can bind it up to a variety of RXs. You could get RXs for the AC900, which is going to be for FR Sky, DSM2 for Spectrum guys. You can get an RX2A Pro, that's for your Fly Sky guys, and you can get the no RX setup if you want to do that. So pretty nice options with this one, and you get your Betaflight cable in there as well. So if you're new to Betaflight, please do check out my Betaflight for Dummies video, because that's really going to help you out a lot in your first initial setups. But let's go ahead now and let's take a look at number 4.
All right, let's go ahead and fly the Diatone R239NX series. There are several different versions of this. You can also get 349. I believe that's a 3-inch version of it, and I'll try to put a link down below for that one as well. But this one is awesome. It is flying really locked down on a 2S battery, 3S, and a 4S. I just got the latest tune for it from them. They have tuned it in the factory by their own pro racers, and they have gotten rid of almost 99% of the jello in here. I don't see a lot of jello and a lot of prop vibes, things like that. It is running really smooth. I love the way it feels. The sweet spot probably is going to be 4S, which is actually kind of amazing on these Cobra motors. The props that they chose on here, they're flawless. I crashed it all over this field out there today, and it's a little bit wet, and this quad survived. It didn't have any type of damage when it came back. The frame is totally fine. It survived my really brutal flight test around the trees. I hit several trees dead into the tree, and the props actually did survive. So again, it's so small and so light that you're probably not going to really damage the frame. If you do break the carbon frame version, I would be very surprised, because I think the arm on that is around 3mm, and it's pretty thick for a micro brushless. But you don't want to go anywhere under that. 2mm is just getting way too dangerous, and I had companies send me 1mm before, and it broke on the first flight. But we have something here that's very polished from Diatone. They know what they're doing. They've been making micro brushless for some time now, and they're not new to the micro brushless game. So originally last year with the GT series, they had a big hit with that one, and now I've got some dogs chasing me around. I'm just trying to get away from them here. This lady came out to the park with 8 dogs. Yeah, for my flight test. So I'm fighting ghost branches and dogs running around everywhere. The nice thing was that they didn't choose to eat my quad today. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it back over to the bench as quick as possible, fire up another battery, and get back out there for you guys. And down low, it flies really fast. Proximity flying is great. Through here, almost hitting myself right there, and back up through the trees, checking out the horizon way up here. Great range with this receiver. Almost zero static. Come back down, diving through the trees, almost hit a ghost branch, back up across the field. A little bit of lumber there, inverted, and that might be the flight controller overreacting. Really quick and snappy on the yaw axis, and plenty of fun through the trees. Small enough that you can gap almost anything with this quad. If you do hit something, it's likely to be something that you couldn't see coming, like that picnic table that I almost hit right there. You will find all kinds of crazy things happening with micro brushless, and that's why these are so fun, because you can fly them in small spaces and you can get away with so much. It's so much fun to fly these, and it really does feel like you're flying a race car flying this R239NX. Let's go in the studio and take a little closer look at it now.
All right, welcome back from the flight test, guys. We're going to talk about number 4 now. The Rabbit series has changed a lot. The 249NX comes in multiple varieties, and the first variety is the Runcam TX200U VTX that comes on this one. You can see this little dipole sticking up right here, and I have one with a zip tie just held up so it goes up higher and I get a better signal from the dipole. It's always good to stand up your dipole instead of having it lay in flat. And then I have an XM receiver under here for my FreeSky radio, my antenna coming off the back right here. Both of these do have the standard XT30 on there, which most of these micro brushless do have these days. When you're ordering your batteries, make sure that you're getting the XT30 because that's very important for the new guys to understand. Now the other versions of this, they have two different frame versions. One is the one that you see here with this polycarbonate frame, and it is a solid frame. The prop guards are actually attached to the quad body. You can see that, look at that all the way around. It's like a spider web, very, very durable. So you can fly this indoors on 2S and just bounce off things, or you could fly it outdoors, either way. Now, in my experiences, the ones without prop guards fly a little better, but you're gonna break more props. And I believe these were 1935 size props. Just checking, double checking, 1940 size props. This one is the carbon frame version, and both of these have 25 amp ESCs on there, so that's why this quad can fly 4S, and it flies 4S really, really well without a lot of vibrations. Other quads in the past that I've flown that are micro brushless been trying to get up to that 4S level for years, and they just had tons of oscillations. With a smaller frame like this, the closer the motors are, the higher the power is, the more vibrations you're going to get, and it's harder to tune it out of the flight controller. But Diatone has done an in-house tune on this, and I can share that link down below with you. You can just do a dump into the CLI inside Betaflight, and you can update this baby to the stock race settings, which are really awesome. You can up the rates a little bit because both of these quads are set to the super rates that are gonna kind of soften it up for beginners. So this is great to start out on 2S, work your way up to 3S and 4S. A really natural progression and evolution in your learning process is gonna be a really nice and subtle way to get into FPV. But my personal pick out of both of these two would be the carbon frame version rather than the prop guard version. If you are a beginner and you want to not break props every time you hit something, go with the one with the prop guards. But eventually, if you want to get rid of your prop guards, there's no way to take them off. So that's something to consider because it does change the flight characteristics. But keep in mind, this one is actually a little bit heavier, even though it doesn't have the prop guards on it. It has this extra bit of carbon here, and the carbon is what adds quite a bit of weight to it. This polycarbonate over here, it's actually lighter. This one, I'll just go ahead and weigh it for you, put it on the scale right here really quickly. We'll zero that out. We'll weigh the carbon frame one, and that one is actually getting 81.6 grams, and we will weigh the prop guard frame, and right there we're getting 77.6 grams. So something to consider. Weight is not going to be a huge deal, and you probably shouldn't make a choice between either of these quads regarding the weight. Honestly, they both fly really well. I believe that this one flies a little bit better without the prop guards, but it's totally up to you. Either way you decide to go, I think you will be totally happy with either one of these. You want to save more props, go with this one. If you want to fly a little faster and a little more nimble, fly with this one without the prop guards and the carbon frame. Either one is just going to be a ton of fun. Now you can also do several different iterations of this. We can do the TX200 VTX, which is what I have here, and that's going to get you out there on 200 milliwatt, which is really great. You can do the Unify Pro from TBS, and that's 5.8 VTX. That one goes way out there. I believe it cranks all the way up to 600 milliwatts. So if you wanted to put a long range receiver on one of these little bad boys, you could do that. You also can get a Runcam Split Mini 2 version, which will record 1080p on these bad boys, because if you notice from this top plate right here, you got plenty of extra room for an extra stack up there if you want to add that single layer Runcam Split Mini 2, and that will allow you to record 1080p micro cinema style videos. Super cool. But let's go ahead now. Let's jump over to number 3 out of 5. And number 3 on my list is the Babyhawk R Pro, and yeah, super awesome quadcopter. This is a 120 millimeter carbon frame with super thin arms. This is a unibody on the bottom. It does not have any type of bevel, but it does have a little soft rubber mount for your battery on the bottom. And we have a newly designed top case. If you loosen these two screws right here, and remove this screw in the back, you can pop the top and access your receiver. This one also binds up to a variety of different receivers, and this one is actually running 2.5mm props. These are the Avon 2.5s. Very, very nice prop combination with the Magnum Mini F4 II. This is a light version of that. These are 25 amp ESCs. They are 4-in-1 ESCs in the bottom of that stack, running up to your F4 flight controller. And this is the F405 Maytech Hex Target using Betaflight OSD as well. We have the latest Betaflight on there running 3.5 at the current time. And with BL-Heli32 ESCs on here, this is a really smooth character. Really nice new version of the Cadex camera on here. This is the F1 CCD FPV camera. Plenty of tilt. You can move this up and down. If you are a beginner, again, I say start out with the least amount of tilt and work your way up. But you can get all the way up to about, looks like almost 45 degrees worth of tilt. This is one of my favorite looking quads as far as aesthetics go. You can also bring this antenna up through and out the back right here. Put a little zip tie on it and bring this dipole antenna away from your props right here, because this will eat that antenna up. You can leave this exactly where it is. That is your receiver right there, and you should be able to get out there at least a couple football fields with this one. And the video system on board this one is 25 milliwatt up to 200 milliwatt. So one of the better VTXs out there right now that is going to get you plenty of range with a micro brushless, especially something this one's capable of running 3 to 4S. 25 amp ESC should get you up to that 4S level. We do have Emax 1106-2 version motors on here. And we'll just look at those a little bit closer up with the red bottom, open bottom design. And we have 3 bolts on the bottom holding on just to shave off a little bit more weight. And they already have the wires fastened down with that black medical tape, which I like a lot. I need to source some of that stuff actually and have it here in my shop. But this one is a real winner. And I'm already talking about it so much because I had a lot of fun with this one, and I really, really love this quad a lot. This is probably one of my favorite micro brushless of all time. Absolutely, because the Emax Babyhawk R series went through such an evolution to get to the Pro version that we have sitting here. We went from 2-inch all the way up to a 3-inch design, and then they went back to this 2.5-inch design, which really is the sweet spot of micro brushless flying. So this is what all of the more experienced pilots want to buy, is around 2.5-inch. Full Speed and other companies out there really, really love 2.5-inch on a lot of their frames. So Diatone, Emax, they're all doing 2.5, and it's a really popular price point. But without further ado, let's go ahead and see a little bit of flight footage of this Emax Babyhawk R Pro, and you can decide for yourself. I'll show you a little bit of the flight characteristics of it. It is an absolute ripper. So start out mild, go all the way to wild with this one. And right now, I believe the current price on this one is around $169. So one of the more expensive micro brushless that I'm going to show you in this review. Let's go ahead and check out some flight footage.
All right, let's get this flight test started. Let's get the party started here with the Babyhawk R Pro. You can run this one comfortably on 2 and 3S. That's what I found was the best battery for this particular quadcopter. It is totally turned up, and turned up means it is just awesome. Underneath there, flying really true, really fast, back down this little stream right here, back under the bridge. There's a lot of branches to hit, but taking some chances for you guys with this quad, mainly because it flies so locked in. It really does. It flies on rails. The stock PIDs that they put on here are great. I didn't have a whole lot of problem. Didn't have any problems with brownout. Taking some chances over top of water right there and waves. Normally wouldn't do that with a lot of the quadcopters that I have. So the quality of this one is really high end. Emax does great stuff, and you can really rely on their components. The motors are absolutely awesome. If you run some Emax motors the first time, the 2206s, the much larger motors, are awesome. The 1106s for your smaller micro brushless are also really awesome. And here I'm just going back out over the water and down these cliffs. Man, this was such a fun day. And I flew this quad all over the place, having a ton of fun. And it feels like you're flying a 5-inch. That's probably the biggest advantage of the Babyhawk R Pro, is it really does feel like a much larger quad than it really is. But you can get in there with some really super awesome small gaps. Just really get in there and you have such a high speed. Some of the things that I do with this quad I would never attempt with a 5-inch race quad. And right there I lost signal and bam, I'm out. And one of the reasons is because I flew behind a tree. I'll do a little bit of inverted over the tree right there, back around. It's a little bit of a split S loop. So you can fly this one as a freestyle quad and really take some chances with it, make some cool videos, fly low and fast. If you want to race other people in multi-GP, if you have a micro brushless racer series, you're going to win races with this quad. It is really beastie on the 1106s. Back over my car right there, whipping past myself with a yaw snap, a little bit of a spin, corkscrewed, and back into the tree right there. And flying over concrete is pretty unforgiving, but the crashes that I did have over the concrete actually were not bad and didn't end in disaster with this frame. So you have plenty of power to weight with this one. You're going to love the power to weight ratio. It is through the roof, and I'm so glad I had it on this trip. Check this out, through the power lines, back down the cliffs. This was a great trip to have this quad on because this is the quad that I pulled out when I wanted to just kind of take it easy. Honestly, this was the quad that is not quite as stressful to fly as something bigger that you have something like $600 into, or a $500 quad. And that's why I love micro brushless, because you can get into this for under $200, some of them even the $100 range. And right there I lost signal for just about a second and a half, which is terrifying, over top of a cliff. But back down and over. Let's check out number 2.
All right, guys, you made it all the way to number 2 out of 5, and don't forget to comment down below to try to win one of these, because our drawing is coming up for the Emax Tinyhawk, and Emax Tinyhawk is placed number 2 out of 5, one of the best micro brushless in the world. This is a little 1S 450 milliamp ripper. It comes with that little 2.0 style connector. Gives you tons of fun on brushless motors. It actually has inverted motors with redesigned Avon props that are called push props. They push onto the motors. They don't have any bolts on them, as you notice right there. But this one also wins the 2nd place position out of 5, mainly because of a few things. And one of them is flight characteristic. It was a lot of fun to fly on 1S, and it really does feel like I'm ripping on a 2S Whoop style quad with this particular quad. The motors are great. The power to weight ratio is really great, and it's a great indoor-outdoor flyer. But without further ado, let's take you outside. Let's do a little flying with the Emax Tinyhawk, and I'll show you my new flight helmet. Check it out.
Okay, let's go ahead and get the Emax Tinyhawk up in the air. I think you're going to be surprised at what a little 1S 450 milliamp battery can do on this setup. It deserved the FPV flight helmet. Let's go ahead and get it in the air. What do you think? Take some tree dives, do a little freestyle, some close-in proximity stuff through the ghost branches. Pretty fast down the street, not bad at all, tons of control. You can fly this also in Acro as an Acro Trainer. And the coolest thing about it is you can almost fly this thing anywhere because it's so lightweight. It's 40 grams. It's not going to hurt anybody. It's not going to hurt you're not going to hurt yourself with it. And it's actually really, really quiet. So not even the Walmart customers notice me, except for the flight helmet. And I'm going to go back up above this tree right here, and I'm sort of circling around this tree, making my way up about an 80-foot, what looks like a Doug fir tree, all the way up to the top, slowly climbing up. And I'm going to take a dive, and this was the only one that I had right at this moment. This was the Emax prototype. There was only a handful of samples, and I got one to test for you guys, and I was able to make it down out of that tree, thank God, without branching it. But the coolest thing about this is that it's versatile for indoor or outdoor. So my flight test proved that it's a great outdoor flyer on the calmer days. If you have a day like the day here that I was flying it, you will have a lot of fun with it. You can fly it anywhere. And what I really love about it is that in a dive, it can handle itself at the bottom of the dive, and it has enough motor to be able to survive those dives. And super smooth in Acro with that in-house tune that Emax did. Their pilots, the pro pilots, actually tuned this one, so it is super snappy and really responsive. Or slow enough and stable enough for beginners in stability mode. So this one really does open up the doors for a lot of people to get into FPV, and that's why the Tinyhawk is my #2 choice out of 5 for the micro brushless for 2019. Let's go ahead and take a little closer look in the studio now.
All right, welcome back from the flight break. Let's go ahead and talk about the specs on this one real quick, and I can give you a quick breakdown of the Emax Tinyhawk. I've been reviewing micro brushless for years. Like I said before, a lot of times when a 1S quad comes into my shop, I don't get super excited about 1S very often, and usually I find myself running away from 1S and then getting really excited about 2 and 3S and 4S micro brushless. But the Tinyhawk brought me back to that 1S experience again, and I got really excited when I flew it the first time because it had a different flight characteristic than any other 1S quad I've ever flown, and that was because this one had been set up with a little bit of stretch on here, ultra light frame, that's polycarbonate frame, and prop guards all the way around. With these inverted motors, there's no prop wash down here, so it flies really, really smooth. And I had a feeling that it was going to fly great because I've flown other Blade series quadcopters maybe 4 years ago now that had inverted motors. I believe it was the Blade Nano. That quad was so stable on brushed motors indoors. It was the smoothest, most rock solid quad I'd ever seen. It almost felt like it was on some type of optical flow sensors on the bottom of it, but it was totally manual. No, with stabilization, of course. But this one also can be flown in stabilization, so accessibility to beginners is way high with this quad. Start out with your stability mode in beta flight. It's great because you have your OSD on board showing your battery telemetry and the name of your quad and all the RSSI info you want on there, and other features. With Betaflight 3.5 on there, it flies absolutely awesome. It has a decent camera on here. On the top of the quad right here, you can see there's little plugs right here, and I call them plug and play because if you brown out a motor, this is great. This one actually has replaceable by hand motors. Use the world's smallest screwdriver right here, take off the motor, and put on a new motor. Simple as that. No soldering required on this one, so that's another reason why this one scored really high. Also, the features that it comes with for $99, you get a lot of stuff right here. You get this cool little carbon fiber style case. It's not actually carbon fiber, it's some kind of material that they've plastic coated to look like carbon. You get some cool Emacs stickers, your quick start guide for setting it up. You get some extra hardware and a battery cable, an extra battery cable. Not sure why they included that, but that's awesome that they did that with that little 2.0 connector, some extra grommets and screws. World's smallest screwdriver there. That 4 battery charger, which also is switchable between HV batteries doing 4.35 volts or the LiPo, standard LiPo at 4.2 volts. So a lot of versatility with this one. You get the F4 flight controller on board, and I think that the motors are also part of the secret sauce on the 75mm frame. Those are the 08025 brushless motors, and these have ball bearings in them. They have a double ball bearing, which is also really, really awesome. That is different than any other brushless motors out there. You can move them and sort of feel those ball bearings moving around in your finger right there, and that's a really great characteristic of this quad. So that means that your motors are not going to have to be replaced quite as often as some of the other ones that I've shown you here in this review today, but it does have that HV battery that comes along with it. It's an Emax branded battery, and that's going to get you close to 3.5 minutes if you're just cruising. It's 450 milliamp per hour at 80C to burst of 160C. These are great batteries, and I would recommend that you get a handful of these to start out with and experiment with some of the other ones out there, like the G&B batteries are also a big crowd favorite. But this one has a 600 TVL camera on here and a 25 milliwatt camera. So you don't have quite as much range with this one. You can get out there a couple football fields, but this one's not going to give you quite as much range as the other quads out there, like the Diatone quad or something else running 200 milliwatts. So look for a micro brushless. If you want further range, look for something that has 200 or above. But again, this one flies great because it was pre-tuned from the factory. If you're looking to bind this one up with your Tyrannus, this one comes with a D8 style Tyrannus receiver on board. And if you look in the very back right there, you have this little USB port for Betaflight, and just underneath here is your bind button, just underneath on the very bottom of this quad. Very hard to see. I had to really look for the bind button. I believe it's right here, right inside there. So you're going to have to hold down that button while plugging in the quad to bind it up to your radio. But again, one of my top picks for 2019, and I will absolutely stand behind this product because it is the bomb diggity. But anyway, guys, without further ado, let's move on to number 1 out of 5. And now for the world's number 1 brushless micro FPV racer from a company we all know and love, Happymodel. Happymodel has scored the number 1 spot out of 5 with the Mobula 7. There is a huge following of 2S whoops out there. Everybody is in love with 2S whoop quads this year, and the Tinyhawk didn't make it into the top spot, mainly because it wasn't a 2S whoop, and they did want to create something from Emacs that would kind of be versatile indoors and outdoors, but I feel like they really should have done a 2S whoop, and I know for a fact that I believe they are in development for a 2S whoop, 2S version of the Tinyhawk. So if this video is dated right now and you're watching it, you've probably already seen the review for the 2S one. So if you want a 2S Tinyhawk, go grab it at the link below. I'll try to update that a little bit later for you. But right now it's all about the Mobula 7, because the Mobula 7 is crazy right now. There are Facebook groups that are just oceans deep with people making videos with this quad. It is super versatile, running 1 and 2S. It's an indoor-outdoor racer. It has smart audio on board, which means you can go inside with your channel, your sticks, and you can change up the channels on your VTX, your power. You can also change up your PID tuning and setting if you wanted to PID tune this one, but you don't have to because it flies out of the box really, really well. The only points that I gave off for this one was durability. This frame is not super durable. If you buy this one from my link down below, make sure you go find a Beta FPV 75mm frame, replace the components that are on this one onto that Beta FPV 75mm frame, and you'll have one that will be extra durable. I'm going to show you some of the flight footage of this one and what happened to mine during the flight test and what it looked like when I came back, so that you won't miss buying that frame for yourself. It does come in 2 different versions. The basic version, which I don't believe came with that little short out plug that goes on one side of the connector to make it run on 1S. The standard version I know comes with it because this is a standard version. It was in this box, but it was not in my other box. It also has receiver options for FR Sky, Fly Sky, DSM2, DSMX Spectrum, guys. QR code is here, 14 and up, and we have some information here from Happymodel in the box, which is really great. It shows you the board layout, your wiring, how to use the included charger, which I really love, motor direction, which is really important for the new guys. And this is the greatest thing about this quad, is that this is a beginner to pro quad. This covers all the bases, all the stuff that all of the expert guys that fly in the community want, the more experienced guys want. They want all the bells and whistles that are included on this one, and we're talking about smart audio, 1 to 2S capability, and it also flies off of really cheap little batteries. These are 1S 250 milliamp Happymodel batteries. You can charge them on a charger that it comes with, and this is an eSheen charger. It is only charging 1S LiPos on here. You have a 2.0 connector, which this battery does have, the larger one on that side, and you have the smaller connector on the other side. This is the original Tiny Whoop style connector. So you can charge 2 different types of batteries on this one. You can charge the standard LiPos or HV LiPos, and these are HV LiPos that come along with it. If you want these batteries to last a little bit longer, you can actually charge them as 4.20. That way it'll last a little longer. If you want it to fly a little longer, you can charge it as an HV battery on here, and there's a setting on here that goes up to 4.35 and 4.20 for a standard LiPo. The very top horizontal position switch right there, that is for 0.2 amp, and you can speed it up by charging it at a little over ½ amp at 0.6 amp right there. You have a little digital display right there showing you all the different voltages, 1 through 6, so 6 batteries at one time here. You have a 5-volt out port for your USB device if you want to charge your phone in the field, And this is a field charger. Essentially what you're looking at right there is an XT60 connector for any type of battery up to 4S. So if you want to do a 4S 1300 or larger, you can do that from 7 to 25 volt input right there, which is really, really nice. And they also have an AC port for a barrel connector. If you wanted to run this one maybe off of a 12 volt or something in the car, this thing is totally awesome. It does have some venting on the bottom because this little guy actually does get a little bit hot. Now what's also cool about this is that you have extra set of props in the box. You have that little short out plug, like you can plug into one side, and that will make it a 1S whoop. Prop guard the prop remover, world's medium cut prop guard remover, some extra hardware in here, and you get a screwdriver for working on the bottom of the frame, taking the motors on and off if you want to. And the other great thing about this frame is that it does have a really quick transfer. If you wanted to move this stuff over to that Beta FPV frame, you can absolutely do that with the screwdriver, and you can unplug these motors. They're plug and play motors, so if you burn one out, or if you have a 4-in-1 ESC go out, just unplug all of this here, put your new flight controller and ESC combo back in, and you're ready to rock. But one of the reasons why the Mobula 7 is so popular is the flight characteristic. Like I said before, this one flies awesome. The power to weight ratio is so awesome on this. We have 5 amp 4-in-1 ESCs on here with the Crazy Bee F3 Pro, and that is the flight controller working in conjunction with the ESCs and the motors. We have 0802, and those are 16,000 kV motors. Just zoom in to show you those. They're an open bottom design. They are really super lightweight and very powerful. The biggest thing, the biggest pro about these is the fact that it is the perfect power combination with the weight. You have a huge advantage when you're flying a whoop to be able to do a maneuver and come back down with a lot of time to recover from a big maneuver. It feels like you have tons of time. It feels like you're 1,000 feet in the air when you're only 10 feet up, which is really a neat thing. But it also has a built-in current sensor up to about 25 amp. You have BL Heli 4-in-1 ESC, like I said before, and those are running D-Shot 600, and it can also do the D-Shot beeper. So if you want to have this little guy beep out in the field, you can do that as well. And you can have a 2-stage buzzer on here. Actually, you can do D-Shot buzzer. After you turn your radio off, this will start beeping, the ESC will start chirping, or you can use the full-size buzzer that they have included inside here, just underneath the canopy, which is really, really cool. And I mentioned before in my previous review of the Mobula 7 that the canopy kind of looks like a manta ray, and someone said that the Mobula, the word Mobula, actually does stand for manta ray, and maybe in some different language, but it's a really nice looking quad, and it does fly extremely well. Now also, if you do consider buying this one, make sure you get some 40mm props. These are quads which are very versatile for a bunch of reasons right now. If you want to add more speed to this quad, you can actually take these props and snip off 2 sides and make them bi-blade props, and it will fly a lot faster, and it'll actually give you, it'll actually lengthen your flight time. So it's going to be pulling less amps out of the ESCs and the motors and the power system, so you get a little bit longer flight times. But I was getting up to 4 minutes with 2 250 milliamp batteries in a series, so a really nice long flight time. A couple years ago, we were only getting like 1 minute flight time with a single 200 milliamp battery, 1S battery on our original Tiny Whoops. So we've really come a long ways, and let me just do a weigh-in on this quad, and I'll let you know where we're at on the weight, because this one also has a very competitive weight compared to the others. So let's just go ahead and weigh this one. And the Mobula 7 by itself, 28.6 grams with a 1S 250 milliamp. As a 1S quad, you're flying it at 35.4, and with 2 of those 1S 250s up to 500 milliamp, you're looking at 42.2 grams total takeoff weight. So again, this one is classified as a toy drone. But let me just give you a roundup here with the weights. Let's go ahead and put the Mobula back on there without the battery, 28.6, and we'll go back to our previous quads that we showed. We'll go all the way back to the GT7. We have the GT7 sitting over here. That was number 5 in the list of 5. And like I said, this one is kind of like the workhorse of the micro brushless kingdom. And right now, dry weight on that one, get that cord on the scale, The dry weight on that one is quite a bit heavier than the Mobula 7, 44.0 grams. Mobula 7 weighing in at 28.6. So like I said, the power to weight ratio is where the Mobula 7 is really beating a lot of the competition. Now let me show you the Diatone Rabbit series. It's at R239, and we're looking at 81.5 grams. But this one's also capable of flying up to 4S. So this is a very high-end, fast race drone. The Emax Babyhawk R Pro and 92.3 grams. So none of these quads are over 100 grams. And this one's coming in at 77.7 grams with the prop guards. And let's go ahead and set the Emax Tinyhawk on the scale, and that's with the battery. Let's take the battery off there, and we got 28.3 grams. Let's weigh it up against the Mobula. The Mobula 28.9, Tinyhawk 28.4, 28.9. So the Tinyhawk is just a little bit lighter than its competition. But yeah, the Mobula 7, 28.9 grams is a very competitive weight in the micro brushless kingdom.
Okay, let's go ahead and get this little guy up in the air. Let me show you what this #1 quad is all about. Check out that prop guard. Did you see that? That was the stock frame that came with this one, and I trashed the stock frame, so when it got back to my shop, it was in pieces. So first thing you need to do when you order this one is also look up on Google the Beta FPV frame. I'll try to put a link down below for one, but check out this quad line of sight in Acro mode. This thing flies really locked in. I'm throwing it all over the place, and I usually don't do this much flips and rolls with a quad unless I'm really feeling comfortable with it, and I'm really feeling it right here. And it's a lot of fun to fly. It's predictable. It doesn't have a lot of lumber in it, and it is flipping quite nice. 2 flips way up high right there, almost hitting the trash can. But back around in front of me, I have a really nice visual on this quad, and it's not very big, but it's falling really slow when I do back off the throttle in those flips. A really nice line of sight flyer. You can start out there and learn your orientation, then you can move up to FPV next. If you wanted to start out indoors, line of sight, you could do that, and that's my suggestion. Learn how to fly it on 1S indoors. Learn all of your orientations line of sight, because when you go to start flying FPV, a lot of that will translate over, and all that stick memory is going to help you out big time as a beginner. So I'm just cruising around the park right now in stability mode, and these guys are having some type of medieval battle to the death over there. Back over to the basketball court, still in stability. I wanted you guys to see stability mode because this is what a lot of beginners start out in, and this is great because it won't let you push your stick too far to one side or the other. It won't let you flip and roll, so it maintains its level angle no matter which way you push the sticks. But this is full speed ahead, almost full throttle, really ripping around the playground and finding some really nice lines, even in stability mode. And here again, I'm cruising along that path. The fall leaves are everywhere. It's looking really nice and open out here. I love all the trees around here. And this is a little gap right here I like to fly through. Just barely made it through that gap, back over the basketball court roof. And I'm going to show you guys some acro. Now if you see the bottom right down there, we're in acro mode now, and this means you have no stability on the quadcopter. This is a mode that is more advanced that you're going to move up to if you're a beginner. Work your way up to this because this is 0 stability right here, and you do have a little bit of accelerometer help there. It smooths everything out, but you are flying completely different, and you can do flips and rolls and just do all kinds of cool aerobatics to your heart's desire. And since you have a pretty decent receiver on here, you can go up as high as you want almost and find some really cool gaps in trees. Go up over trees, and look at the throttle acceleration that this quad has. The power to weight ratio is what got me so excited, because this really does fly like a 5-inch quad, even though it fits in the palm of my hand and it's around 28 grams. It is so much fun to fly. I love that this has more boost than the Tinyhawk. The Tinyhawk, I found myself kind of climbing up the trees, but look at that distance there. I'm able to get above the park, come back down. Having trouble finding my way back down because of all the ghost branches, but proximity flying is great. Stability flying is excellent for beginners, and moving up as an Acro Trainer, this should be your quad of choice in my opinion. And I'm gonna try some really small gaps right here. Oh, making it through the top of the basketball court roof, in between and back through. Oh, hit a ghost branch. The cool thing also is that when you hit a prop guard in the trees just like that, you can bounce out and recover sometimes. And right there, I didn't have quite enough motor to make it back out of that loop. So I did want you guys to see that it did take some hits in this flight test, and it really did put up with a lot of punishment, and more punishment than it would normally get on any beginner's day, because I'm really pushing it through the trees right here. So we're gonna matty flip around this tree right here, and you don't see that often with a whoop, that a whoop has enough power to do a more advanced move like a matty flip and be able to recover out of that. It was on the first part of the battery, but it is possible to matty flip a Mobula 7, which is more of a 5-inch race quad move. Not so typical with race brushless racers. Back under the playground, and this is where it gets really unforgiving, guys. Playground metal poles hitting quads is one of the worst damages that you can possibly do to your quad, and this quad did take some real hard hits in this playground. And I believe I cracked more of my frame here as well, just to show you guys how maneuverable this quad can be. Power loop up, back, and around, and playing around with some fence out by the baseball field. This quad really does have it all. So let's go ahead and sum it up.
Alright guys, there you have it, the top 5 micro brushless. Those are my picks for the first part of 2019. If you're getting into the summer right now and you're still watching this video, these are still going to be great picks, don't get me wrong. They are going to have some longevity for these. If you can still find these in stock, you're absolutely going to love this one. Any one that you see here on the bench. But our #1 winner today is definitely hands down the Mobula 7 is a huge crowd favorite. People absolutely love this quad, and with good reason, mainly because it flies really, really awesome, and it has a lot of versatility indoor, outdoor. It's just the perfect winter or spring or summer quadcopter. Really awesome if you really just want to relax and cruise with it too. So beginner to pro, this one has everybody's heart. A really great quad, especially for the price. You can't go wrong for around $99 for this quad. Our runner-up, the Emax Tinyhawk, it didn't score quite as high as the Mobula, mainly because it wasn't the 2S version that I was looking for, and that was a bummer, but I believe they do have a 2S version coming out. And the #3 spot was the Babyhawk R Pro, which I really like a lot as well. That one is going to be sort of a 3, maybe a 4S banger, mostly an outdoor quad. So this one doesn't have the versatility of indoor, outdoor. The Diatone Rabbit series, the R239 quads are awesome, and that one probably has the most versatility as far as options goes, with the Runcam TX200 VTX that you can put on there. The 200 milliwatt on that one's going to get you way out there, but this one you can fly it indoors on 2S with the prop guards if you want, but when you hit the wall, it sounds like a baseball hitting the wall. So this one is not one to really fly honestly indoors. This one is more of an outdoor quad. I think they want it to be an indoor quad, but yeah, this one's just a little bit beastie with those Cobra motors on there. So this one is an absolute ripper, also with the option of the Unify Pro and the Runcam Split 2 on there. Great choice, and one of my top picks. Absolutely awesome. It flies beautifully. Now the last one on the board as well, this one was my most durable quad out of any of them sitting here. Whatever frame they have chosen to, whatever material they have chosen to build this frame out of, it's just absolutely rock solid. This is almost a perfect beginner quad. If you want a banger, this is one that you can really bang around quite a bit before it breaks. No problems with this. This is a really durable, what I call the truck of FPV quadcopters sitting here. But thanks again for watching my compilation, guys. I really do appreciate you watching the channel. If you're new to FPV, please check out my Patreon down below, because if you want to contact me and get some one-on-one tech support, you want to ask me questions about your setup, or if you're doing your first build, things like that, guys are hopping on my Patreon, and you can do it for $1 a month. And you can cut off anytime you want to, but you can sign up for some almost free tech support in the FPV community from someone that really knows a lot about the sport, and it's growing and changing all the time. So I'm going to show you guys behind the scenes look on my Patreon page for my supporters, and we're going to do some Discord live chats as well and some live streams. But I really appreciate you guys watching my channel. Please do stay tuned and subscribe, because more micro brushless reviews are coming up, and 5-inch race quads on the channel. And new drones are coming out all the time. And also, if you're watching this video in the colder months right now and you're looking for something indoor, pick up the Tinyhawk or the Mobula. The Mobula might be a little easier to fly indoors on 1S than the Tinyhawk. This one was a little bit heavier flying than this one felt, for some strange reason. I don't know why, but extremely fast and a very great choice for indoors or outdoors. The Mobula 7 is the clear winner here. So again, thanks for watching my channel, guys. Please do subscribe. I love your comments. Please do make them below, and I'll continue interacting with you guys. I'm Justin Davis. I'll see you on the next one.